Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. I hope you're loving this series on the human factors of innovation and how you create innovative culture. We're going to get into a really good episode today, idea capture, valuation, and funding. We've gotten this far. It's episode 11. I'm Frank Wander. I'm the founder and CEO of People Productive. I'm here with an amazing culture engineer, Terry Mays, who has actually done this on the job. So we're going to talk about this. This entire series is building blocks, and the building blocks have gotten to the point where we've gotten the ideas really going, and using creative abrasion, inspiring people, getting everybody's idea wheels turning, having research time with interruption free time, and ultimately having think time set aside. Go take a look at that episode. That was last week's episode. Super important. But the purpose of think time isn't that you go sit there and put your feet up on the desk, although you may very well do that. The purpose is to capture ideas. So you need an idea capture solution for the enterprise. Ideas can come in at all levels. They could be for a little project. They could be for a big initiative in a division, or maybe something that affects the enterprise. So ideas have to be evaluated, and you've got to value those ideas at whatever level is appropriate. And then the good ones get funded, and you start to drive this engine of innovation in your company. You get it turning, you get into this rhythm of using all these human factors of innovation to create a truly innovative culture and company so you can outcompete and outperform in every case. And Terry, tell me, why don't you share your experience doing this, since you guys actually did do idea capture? I've done it as well, but let's hear your experience.
Yeah, so I worked with a company that actually did this very well. So, ideas, and we're not here to sell products. I'm going to tell you about an experience we had with ServiceNow. But ServiceNow does have an idea capture system where you can go in and put
Mhm.
in different ideas. But the thing that feeds the idea capture system, so that part is great, having a nice system, but you want to have people that are in that right headspace. So that's what Frank was talking about, getting people in the right headspace so that they can be thinking strategically. They're thinking innovatively. They're thinking, how can we improve? How can we make things better? How can we streamline process? And so once you get those great ideas, you can actually enter those ideas in ServiceNow as an idea,
Mhm.
and then have a whole workflow that's set aside for developing that idea and getting the right levels of approvals. And those ideas can then flow into your project management system, and which ServiceNow also has a project management module. So you could have those ideas flow and become actual projects that get implemented. So
Yeah.
it's a really nice streamlined way to capture ideas, develop them fully, create requirements, the initial requirements, and then translate that into a project that gets the full blown project workflow, whether it's agile or waterfall or whatever methodology you're using. You can follow that idea all the way through to
Mhm.
implementation, which is pretty cool because all of those modules link together in ServiceNow. And so that's the company that I worked with. That's kind of how we did it. We used those modules in ServiceNow to
Mhm.
track it all the way through from idea to implementation.
I'll tell you, it's great because to get a working business process where you're capturing ideas and going through the process to actually find ideas that have enough value to implement, you don't see that often. I've done it and led it in companies, but you don't see it often. Most companies, first of all, don't even have an innovative culture. They're stuck at really level three, early collaborative for the most part. We know from all our research across hundreds of companies, the average company is at 323, which is early collaborative. They're at that very beginnings of becoming a collaborative organization. If you don't have deep collaboration and you don't have candor and a culture where people can really come together and debate and bring up ideas, you're going to have no creative abrasion. You're not going to get the breakthrough ideas out of a culture that doesn't take all these different human factors into account and make sure they're implemented. And that's why watching this series is so important, because not only do you have that big, strategy, you also have external focus that you're cultivating so people know what's going on in the outside world around them. And they're able to come up with ideas that give you competitive advantage because they see what's coming, whether it's technology, new technologies that could be applied in the workplace, or competitors that have brought things into the market. People have research time. They're able to go look into this stuff. That's what interruption free time is used for. So this is incredibly valuable. And it's really great that, Terry actually worked on it from end to end,
Yeah,
which is really rare, Tara. I'm telling you, very few
yeah,
companies do this. And you very rarely see this at the enterprise level. You might see it in a pocket in the company with a really well run department or something is tackling this and doing it right. But very few enterprises are innovative cultures. Very
yeah.
few.
Yeah, you want to encourage this idea generation. You want to encourage that. You want to reward that, right? So you're looking for ways to recognize people. This is a great way to do it. You can actually use those ideas to start right from the beginning with developing people and making them feel like their ideas matter. So you're making them feel like what they have to say is important. When you capture those ideas and you actually get to implement an idea that somebody had, it gives them such a rewarding feeling
Oh,
to
it's
know
huge.
that they were responsible for this idea. It was their idea, and now it's making the company millions, or it's saving the company millions, whatever the case might be. It may even just be improving process, so that now
Oh,
what
yeah.
used to take 3 hours now only takes 15 minutes because of automation.
And
Those
by the
kinds of,
way, Tara,
yeah,
I hate to cut you off, but those are the things, those improvements make the place run so well that you
yes,
can actually implement think time. It's
right,
only the most well-run shops that have think time because they're not caught up in that fog of work and the minutia. And so what
right.
you just mentioned, taking a process takes 3 hours, turning it down to one, this is what makes a place so run so well that you could start to tackle bigger things. It's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. It's totally, and what's cool about it is most of the time, people are just kind of sitting around thinking about the work that they do and
Yep.
how it integrates with other teams. And you get that for free. You get all of that for free. You don't have to pay the person anymore for sitting at their desk thinking strategically. They're still getting the same salary that they were already getting. So you
Yeah.
really, it's like getting a bonus for the company, where
Yeah.
you get all these great ideas generated out of people because now they're highly functional and they're
Yeah.
not bogged down with just dumb things. I call it the dumb things
Right.
because
And
they're things that slow down process, things that prevent people from being their most productive because they're so stressed out. You've got to keep
yeah.
people out of that space.
And this quote is just so important, imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the entire world, stimulating progress, giving birth to evolution. Why does that matter? Because 45% of CEOs believe their company won't be viable in 10 years. They're not able to evolve. They're not able to evolve because they're not an innovative culture. They're not even a productive culture. 40% of the work produces no value. And that's what these CEOs believe. And they're
Yeah.
right. We know it from the research. So companies have to do these things that improve productivity. And that's why you want to capture ideas to pick up that extra 2 hours a day on a business process. It's a huge part of ultimately getting to the point where you are evolving. You're giving birth to the evolution of the company, but you now have a continuously innovative culture. The highest level of culture maturity is where you're between 4.75 and 5. 5 is thriving. That 4.75 to 5, you can get there. You're a continuously innovative company. And this engine is running. This isn't about finding an idea for a project. This is about building an innovative culture that's continuously churning out ideas so you're evolving. And that's more important than any knowledge people have. It's everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely everything.
It's that continuous improvement mindset.
Yeah.
Do I have a growth mindset? Do I want to see things change and improve over time? Or am I just happy with the status quo? You don't want people just
Yeah.
staying in that space where they're happy with the status quo, where they're just going along to get along or just doing the bare minimums to get by. You want them fully engaged
Oh, yeah.
because that's when you get the most productivity out of people. And when the workday becomes less of labor intensive workday, but now people are having fun.
Yeah.
This space where you're capturing ideas and getting a chance to see it implemented in the systems in the workplace, that's fun. I don't care how
It
you
is.
slice it and dice it. Somebody gets
That's
such a rewarding
it's fulfillment.
feeling
It
from that.
really is.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you bring up growth mindset, which is interesting because there's always the flavor du jour. and they'll push growth mindset. A growth mindset is great. I have nothing negative to say about it, but a growth mindset that's not within a productive and innovative culture isn't going to get you very far, because
Right.
people will remain caught up in the fog of work. The
Right.
40% of the stuff they do is still going to be unproductive, and it's actually over 50% in most companies, honestly. I
Yeah.
like to quote the 40% number because that was 4,702 CEOs saying, yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, people are
40%
spending all their times in meetings. If
work.
you're in meetings for 80% of the day, you've only got 20% of the time left. You got to check emails. You've got to respond to people. So when do you actually get work done?
You don't.
It's not happening. Or people are just burnt out because they are in meetings all day long and they're multitasking, so they're switching from one thing to the next throughout the time that they're in the meeting. So they're not productive. Then when they're at their desk, they're being distracted by people coming by trying to get answers. So they really never have time to sit down and get work done. So they end up working at home. They're working after hours. They're working on the weekends. And it's just a vicious cycle that people get in when they're working like that.
Yeah. And, when you really look at this, it is just so important that companies start to embrace this and understand that this is leadership. You're talking about these human factors of leadership to move you up the curve till you become an innovative culture. That's a different style of leadership that takes different experiences and different things that you've got to do and accomplish. So this is really important. And this leads us into the next episode, because now you've done the capture, you've evaluated and valued ideas, you've funded them. So the next thing is we're going to talk about is achievement driven culture, really starting to tap and reinforce and just continuously invigorate people. And that's episode 12, is achievement driven culture. So we're here every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We have another episode. We've got more episodes on innovative culture coming. You're certainly going to want to tune into the next one next Wednesday. I think that's going to be just dynamite, which is to really find out why achievement driven culture matters and how you get there, because that's a big part of a thriving company. I'll be honest with you. And so, look, I really thank you for coming. We look forward to seeing you at the next episode. So take care.
Yes.